This is the left half of the ventricular system of the brain. The right and lateral ventricle has been removed. The others are actually intact. So this is the left lateral ventricle. It lies within the left cerebral hemisphere. It's composed of a body that lies partly within the parietal lobe of the cerebral hemisphere. This is the anterior horn or frontal horn because it lies in the frontal lobe. This one. This is the posterior horn, which lies within the occipital lobe. And this is the inferior horn, which lies within the temporal lobe. Each lateral ventricle is connected to the third ventricle. This is the slit-like third ventricle by the interventricular foramen of Monro. The third ventricle has 4 recesses. Anteriorly, it has the supraoptic recess. This one. This is the supraoptic recess. Below it, there is the infundibular recess. And posteriorly, this is the lower one is the pineal recess. And the upper is the suprapineal recess. This aperture in the central part of the third ventricle is for the interthalamic adhesion between the two thalami. Then the third ventricle continues downward with the cerebral aqueduct of Sylvius, which traverses the midbrain and connects it to the fourth ventricle. So the lateral ventricle lies within the cerebral hemisphere. The third ventricle lies within the diencephalon, between the two thalami mainly. The cerebral aqueduct lies within the midbrain, and the fourth ventricle lies within the hindbrain. It is bounded anteriorly by the pons and the medulla, and posteriorly by the cerebellum. The fourth ventricle also has 3 recesses, 2 lateral recesses, and a median recess. Each recess ends at an aperture. The aperture of the lateral recess is the foramen of Luschka, and the aperture of the median recess is the foramen of Magendie. And then after that, the fourth ventricle continues down with the central canal of the spinal cord, which first occupies part of the medulla and then continues down through the spinal cord. Pause. So if we continue now, we've put this left lateral ventricle together with the intact other parts of the ventricular system in the brainstem model. So again, here we see this is the lateral ventricle. This is the anterior or frontal horn. This is the posterior or occipital horn. And this is the inferior horn or temporal horn. And we said the lateral ventricle connects with the third ventricle. This is the third ventricle. It's slit-like between the two thalami through the interventricular foramen. So now it's very obvious. And then the third ventricle continues downward through the cerebral aqueduct of Sylvius, which traverses the midbrain, down to the fourth ventricle. The fourth ventricle has the recesses, the lateral ones, and the median, and then it connects or continues downward with the central canal of the spinal cord.